I'm going to call to order the Franklin Township Zoning Hearing Board at this time. We have some organizational affairs to take care of first.
There you go. Just now you're good. So you're looking for a motion for chair.
I move that Bill Finch be nominated for chair.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so then you're looking for a motion for secretary.
Not me. Thank you.
Hmm?
Is it you?
No,
Yes.
no, it's not me. It's
I'd like to make a motion at this time that we nominate Connie for secretary of the Zoning Hearing Board.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
I guess I don't count.
You do, but you're still out though.
I know.
So Vicky, at this time, I think we have one more thing to take care of. Possible alternate member of the Zoning Hearing Board.
Yes, did you get, did the Board of Supervisors appoint someone as an alternate?
Yes.
Okay, so you wanted to recognize him because he's here this evening?
Yes, Walter Johnson.
I think in front of all of you, you had a cover letter from Mr. Johnson as well as his CV. So we'll welcome you as an alternate member. You might have guessed that we don't meet very often, so.
Does that mean that Walter gets to come as an alternate this evening?
Yes.
Or is that, okay. That's what I
Yes, he will
thought.
serve as an alternate, and he would only need to vote if for some reason one of you
If one of
recused
the three of
yourself
us can't.
or something.
Well, actually, he needs to be.
Chair.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
So, yeah, we could not affirm his appointment because it needs to be sworn in by an officer of the court, and our solicitor wasn't available, and Jeff, our notary, was out today, so we're going to take care of that next week.
Great, so you'll be official for our next meeting then, but thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Any other regular business that you need to do?
I think so.
Okay, all right, so then at that point, this point, we'll open the public hearing. So my name is Vicky Kushto. I'm the solicitor for the board. We're here this evening for the application of Robert and Lisa Macknis. The applicants are the owners of property located at 316 Chesterville Road, known as tax parcel number 72-2-74.2. The property is located in the LDR Low Density Residential District. The applicants request the following relief from the zoning ordinance: a variance from section 29-1709.4.e to permit a home occupation within a shed, which is within the front yard. From section 27-2006.a to allow a home occupation sign that is 3 square feet instead of the permitted 2 square feet. And from section 27-504.1.a to allow a shed in the front yard setback. I have a few exhibits that I need to enter into the record. Board 1 is the zoning hearing board application with attachments received by the township on August 15th, 2023. Board 2 is the public notice advertising the meeting scheduled for this evening and the proof of publication from the Daily Local News for advertising on October 2nd and October 9th of this year. Board 3 is a letter dated September 25th of this year to the applicants from myself advising of the hearing date this evening. B4 is an affidavit of mailing dated September 25th, 2023, sent by Donna Eller of my firm, and a copy of the sample letter to property owners and a list of property owners that were notified. Board 5 is a property posting notification by Mark Gordon, the zoning officer, dated October 10th, 2023, and pictures of the posting that was done. We have no members of the public here this evening. Are you also here as a member of the public to speak about this application? No, okay. And do we have anybody on Zoom this evening?
No, just Jennifer.
Okay, so I'm going to note just for the record that we don't have any public in attendance this evening, so I'm not going to go through my spiel about party status or anything like that. Sir, are you and your wife going to provide testimony this evening about your application? You will, okay. Okay, why don't we just have you both, that's okay, you don't have to have anything prepared, but why don't we just have you both sworn just in case, because you're gonna both potentially provide sworn testimony. Okay, so sir, if you could just start us out by telling us about your application, what you're looking to do and why you're here this evening. Yes, please.
Little bit of background. The reason we're here is because PennDOT took our building away from us that we worked out of for 37 years through an eminent domain. So after that many years and me getting older at this point and getting ready to retire in a few years, they don't give you enough money to purchase a new building. They give you a third of the value and then you have to fight. So rent is astronomical and an upholstery business really isn't going to be able to afford the rent at this point. It's a business where you just survive. You don't get rich. It's an art. Right? You have to love what you do to do what I do. We put the shed up and that's why we're asking for these variance reliefs. We have an odd property. There's very little flat land. And the only place that I could put it is where I put it. And I have it in his pictures, I think that you all have there. So through that PennDOT, it puts us in an odd position. I never really wanted to ever work from home. And it's come to the point where I have to. We haven't worked since October of last year. We weren't allowed to work in our building anymore. We had to do inventories and get ready for the move and everything else. And January 12th was our last day there of 2023. So from there, all the work will be performed inside the shed. I don't know if anybody's been around an upholstery business. It's a very quiet business. Where we are located, we're on the straightest section of Chesterville Road. The building does not impede the road side of view at all. There are no houses around us. We're all by ourselves. So you don't have to worry about sound. As far as pickup and deliveries, that's what we do most. There'll be very little walk-in people and everything will be by appointment only. We will not have people knocking at the door constantly coming in. And thankfully to the, with the internet, we can do most of our estimates and everything right on the internet anymore, which is kind of a godsend. Like it was listed, we're in a low density residential district. No houses are there. Our deliveries are UPS, FedEx, and everybody's favorite Amazon, you know, and they'll be only a few times a week. As far as customers, I couldn't see more than 2 or 3 people coming in at the most in a week. And I know it won't be that much because I'm cutting back my workload as well. After 45 years, it's time to start taking a little bit of a break. There's no impact on the community for what I do. We leave no footprint. We make no noise. You're not even going to hear it if I do. So that's why we're standing here today talking to you and hoping that you'll grant us the reliefs that we asked for so we can get back to work because we really need to do that. The sign, you have a picture of it. Picture makes it look huge. Like was noted, it's 18 by 24. So it's 24 inches wide, 18 inches high. The one picture shows Ham's Upholstery and Sunroof. That is our original sign from our building. I want to repurpose it. The second picture, you'll see where I put tape over it, and that will be the finished. Once it's engraved, if you give me permission to do this, It'll be engraved and it'll say that on it, where it's appointment only. As far as that, that's pretty much it. It's cut and dry why we're here. If you have any questions, we'll try to answer them.
I have a question. Could you just explain what happened when they came in and declared eminent domain? Did you have a shed there and they removed it, or what happened?
Oh, eminent domain happened on our building in Aston on 322. We drove to Aston we've been here since 1991. So we've been in this township a long time. We drove to Aston every single day, back and forth. And we had a 4,000 square foot building. And the township decided, or not the township, PennDOT decided that they were going to widen 322. They have 2 lanes all the way down. The sad part about it is it's never going to happen, but that's, beyond the waters under the bridge on that one. And as we were leaving, they built a Dunkin' Donuts right next to us. So it's kind of a slap in the face, So they really didn't, we really didn't have to go. But in January 12th of this year, that was what I call turning the key day. But I don't know if anybody's ever experienced an eminent domain. It's not an easy transfer, So we went through that for the last couple of years, and we finally came to the end where they said, you'd have to go. So the shed has been on our property for almost a year and a half now. Somewhere a year and 2 months, 4 months, something like that. Nobody's ever complained. Nobody ever even looks up when they go by. They're looking straight forward. So I hope I answered that for you.
Yeah. I just wasn't sure whether that happened here or somewhere else.
Oh,
You
no.
clarified that. Thank you.
Yeah. And I know we're supposed to be 75 feet off the road. I don't have 75 feet. We live on a hill, a mountain actually, and we're at the bottom. There's very little flat land, and that's used up. Our well is right close to the side. I can't push it back any further. And even if I could, I don't have 75 feet of flat land. I would have to cut out the hill, which is going to cause all kind of catastrophic damage to nature with water runoff and everything else.
So your house and your garage are non-conforming also, or they were grandfathered in before this ordinance was written?
Yes, they were built in 1964 before we ever had any zoning board or anything here. The garage we built in 96. And it's a funny story. When we built it, we came here and we asked the man, his name was Carl Mann at the time. And we said, we're here for a permit. And he said, for what? And I said, we'd like to build a garage. He goes, okay, do you have plans? And I said, no. He goes, draw me a picture of your house. I drew him a picture of the house. He says, is that all you need? And he goes, yep, it's $106. And I asked him, how often do we have to have it inspected? And he goes, we don't have any building inspectors. This was in 1996. Right. And I said, well, why'd we give you the $106? He says, because you asked for a permit. If somebody complains. And I said, who's going to complain and to who? So that's when everything started to change here.
Couple questions about the shed. So you're performing all the work in the shed?
Mhm. The only thing I will be doing outside is if a car is there, I'll be unbolting the seat and taking it in the shed.
There's an air conditioner in the shed currently,
Yes,
and you're going to put heat in there also?
I have heat in there. I awarded myself heat and air conditioning after 45 years of sweltering summers and very cold winters. So basically we went from 4,000 square feet to 280 square feet.
You probably said, but where's the sign going to be located?
It'll be on the side of the building facing the road.
So it'll be on the building itself?
Yes. Yeah, I don't want to put a separate sign out at the road or anything.
How far is let's see, I guess that's what do we got here? The corner of the shed from the corner of your garage.
I think it's about 10 feet. I thought I had drawn that out on one of the diagrams that you. 11 feet? Okay, thank you.
House and garage. For the board, the house and the garage are about 46 feet from the right of way. So yes, existing non-conforming structure.
Could you describe for us what the backyard situation is? I know you said you're at the bottom of a mountain, and just from living here, probably a little longer than you have even. I have a mental picture, but
Well, I'm going to describe it from the house itself. So if you were looking at the front of the house, you're walking in the front door, which originally back in the 60s to build it, we gathered it was the back door or the basement door, and it would be facing east, northeast, right? If you would walk around the yard, you're going to come up on a slight incline. And if you came in the back of the house, you're going to come in level again. So you're like this. That distance is probably about 15 feet. It's 3 or 4 swipes with a 46-inch cutter mower. Right. So that is the only flat land we have back there. And back there is also our drain field for the septic. And the hill curves around because there's been swales put into it to control water around the house at one time. So there is no land back there. And then I'm going to say that grade of the hill is probably close to 45 to 40 to 45 degree.
Just to give the board a little scale, at the garage, the elevation, and at the existing shed that we're discussing, the elevation is 270 feet. At the rear of the property, it's 360 feet. So it's a 90-foot increase in elevation from front to back over a distance of 360 feet. So 90 over 360. So you're about 10% grade, plus or minus. So we wouldn't allow a driveway on a 10% grade. Typically, that's the max, and for safety. So yes, this property is encumbered with severe slope, and these are probably considered extreme, or what we call prohibitive steep slopes, where development would not occur.
So we're really talking about, I mean, you have 47 feet to the roadway, is that correct? Is that what, am I reading this properly?
From the house.
From the house, sorry.
From the house,
So you're talking about what?
35 feet from the
Yeah, from
front side to
so
the
you're talking
roadway.
about 12-foot difference, basically.
And in that 12-foot, we run into the well at 17 feet on the back side of the shed.
Oh.
And the county won't allow any buildings that close to a wellhead. So he's outside of that area. We're outside of that distance from the well for a building or structure.
we have 3 separate variances we're talking about.
Mhm.
Setback from the road, which was pre-existing with other structures.
Yes.
Second is the sign issue.
Yes, it's 1 square foot bigger than the ordinance allows. And then the third is, under the regulations, you can't have a home occupation in a yard. And because the home occupation is happening in the shed, it's within the required yard. That's what the 3 variances are. So the third one doesn't change anything. It's just relates to the shed as well.
You say that again?
Sure. The third one is because they're operating a home occupation in the shed. And under the ordinance, you can't operate a home occupation in a yard area. So it doesn't change the location of the shed. It's just that because the shed is in the yard area, you're not really supposed to do a home occupation in it.
When we say yard area, that's that setback yard, that first 75 feet where development and structures are not permitted is considered a front yard.
Right.
That 75 feet is called the front yard. Then we have the building envelope. Then we have a rear yard, side yards, that type of thing. So home occupations are to occur in an accessory building. It's permitted so long as that accessory building is within the building envelope. This one is not. It is in the yard, front yard.
Do you have any other questions?
Well, I have plenty of questions, I think, of Mark. I don't think I have any more from Mr. Macknis.
I have one more for Mr. Macknis if I could. I understand the challenges that you have with the property. I tend to be sympathetic to the small business being self-employed. I'm not sure I'm clear on the sign relief or how that fits into it if you don't really need to be found by the public. I mean, 2 square feet, 3 square feet, whether you're talking about mounting it. I just don't understand what the why behind that one.
I just wanted to repurpose our original sign that we've had forever. That's all. That's the reason for it.
I'm sorry, you said engrave the other part. I thought another sign was being made. I misunderstood.
Yeah, I want to
That's why I'm sorry.
repurpose our original sign.
Missed that.
I would just ask that everyone speak at once, one person at a time, just so our court reporter can take it down.
So Bill, did you want to ask your questions?
Yeah, Mark, does he need to be sworn in or not?
Yeah, let's swear Mark in. Just
Swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, ma'am.
So I guess my questions are, can you talk about these ordinances and give us an explanation about why they're in place?
Sure.
And why we need to meet them?
Sure. So the relevant code sections that the solicitor's already explained. The first one, and a little background how we got here. Mr. Macknis approached the township and said, I want to operate this business. And I said, okay, great. It's a home occupation. Let's talk about it. And we met out site and I immediately saw that the shed was in the front yard. And I'm looking at the code thinking, that's probably going to be a challenge. So home occupation standards are a separate section in the ordinance. It's a permitted use in this district. In all residential districts, it's a permitted use for someone to operate a home occupation. There is a permitting requirement and, you can operate from a accessory building, you can operate from the home. Mr. Macknis decided to take this opportunity and operate from a shed because he doesn't want the business in the home, which is fine. So
Can we just dive into that just a little
Yep.
deeper?
So the home occupation standards state that activities within the yard areas, this pertains to the side, rear, and front yards of the property as defined. Front yard setback distance in the LDR district along Chesterville Road is 75 feet. And that's from section 27-504 from the front yard property line. It appears that the shed has been installed on the property is approximately 30 to 35 feet from the front property line. The shed is within that front yard requirement. So right there, the home occupation ordinance says the occupation cannot occur in a front yard. So relief is needed from that section of the home occupation ordinance, which is part of the zoning ordinance. So that's number one. Any other questions about that?
Well, I guess I have questions about the shed in general. I mean, do you issue a CO on a shed?
We issue a permit.
You issue a permit.
We issue a zoning permit. And once that zoning permit is issued, and the shed's in place, that shed is now a legal use.
And the heat and the air conditioning?
So the shed should also have an electrical permit, a mechanical permit, and I don't think there's any plumbing in there. So a condition that I would recommend, should the board think about approving this, would be that the Macknis's apply for a zoning permit for the shed, an electrical permit, and a mechanical permit. And that would bring the shed into compliance for the zoning ordinance and the building code requirements for adding those electricity and mechanicals.
So a shed can meet the ordinances to be occupied for the home occupation. I mean,
Sure. He's using it. He's not residing there. It's not a bedroom. It's not a living area. It's a workspace. So it's like if you wanted to have your table saw and your router and your bandsaw in your shed, and you wanted to do your own hobby work, I wouldn't take it any different than that. And I don't believe Mr. Macknis is going to have any type of big power tools like that, mostly done by hand. And, I've seen the shed and it's done well. And I've seen what he has in there, and I don't think there's going to be an issue with that.
do you see any detrimental effects to his neighbors by occupying the business in the shed there?
I do not. I do not. So the other section is the sign, and that signs in residential and agricultural districts are permitted, and home occupations are permitted to have a sign not to exceed 2 square feet. So this 1 foot dimension, although it's 33%, I believe it still will be de minimis, just because I'm not an attorney, but it is a small amount. It's a small sign on the shed facing the road. So it's not like it's going to be a 2-sided sign that's going to sit out as a freestanding sign. It's going to be a wall sign. So I'd also recommend that a condition of approval be that he applies for a sign permit with the shed. And then we get that on the record that should you approve it, zoning variance was granted and a permit was issued. The third is an area and bulk requirement of the zoning district. So this is not part of the home occupation. It's part of the actual low density residential standards that says accessory structures are not permitted within the front yard setback area. And that's typically because garden sheds, hobby sheds, workshop shed are typically in the rear yard. And Mr. Macknis and Mrs. Macknis decided to pick a color that was resemblance of their home. The trim is done nicely. It's a nice building. It was professionally installed on professionally graded and supported foundation area. So I have no concerns that it's going to create any safety concerns. Mr. Macknis's closest neighbor is probably 500 feet on that roadway. And then the closest one up at the top of the hill, again, another 400, 500 feet. And there's no lots to develop here. So it's not like there's a possibility the neighboring lot's going to subdivide and someone's going to build a home next to Mr. Macknis.
To your knowledge, have we heard from any neighbors or have we heard from the Board of Supervisors on this matter?
So I have not heard from any residents or property owners or anyone regarding this matter. And I do have a memo that outlines the Board of Supervisors did review this application last night. I'll pass that up. You all can have a copy of that. There's enough there. Pass that down to the solicitor. So the board reviewed the application last night. My recommendation was that they take no position and let the zoning hearing board decide. They asked me last night, well, we'd like to support it. I said, well, you can absolutely do that. So they overwhelmingly and unanimously supported the Macknis zoning hearing board application and supported all three variance requests. That has the weight of that. They're just that, and they have no issue with the board granting this relief. If they had an opportunity to oppose. And obviously they would have sent this township solicitor here to make the township's case and urge the zoning hearing board to deny. They did not. The solicitor was here last night. He heard their discussion and he had no comments in opposition at all.
So just for the record, I'm going to mark the memorandum to the zoning hearing board from Mark Gordon, the township zoning officer, with regard to the board's position as board exhibit 6, so B6. I have one. Oh, it's okay. Does the board have any other questions?
Just, Mr. Macknis, if you could repeat, how many deliveries do you expect a day and how many customers a day?
Excuse me, what was the first part?
The deliveries and customers, how many a day of each?
Oh, deliveries maybe one a week. It's not very often. And customers, maybe 1 or 2 a week.
You made reference to the internet and ability to communicate and quote that way. Do you ship products to customers that don't come to the location? Or is this typically on something that they own already, a chair or an automotive seat or something like that?
Only on things that they own. I do not ship.
Thank you.
Anything else from members of the board? Yes, but I see someone joined us on Zoom. Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure we didn't have any other comments. So again, we'll just note that we don't have any other public here. If the board would like to, you have another question?
No. I think at this time we'll adjourn to executive session.
Then that's what we'll do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'll just add one thing real quick. So your question about deliveries, the home occupation ordinance states that no more than 2 deliveries from commercial suppliers should be made each week, excluding normal postal services and parcel deliveries. Deliveries from commercial suppliers shall be made between the hours of 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. So that would be a large delivery, not Amazon, not FedEx, not UPS. Those are parcel deliveries that everyone gets. And the Macknis's can have 5 of those a day, but only 2 large commercial deliveries of products for your business.
Magnus matter.
We've had a chance to get a little bit of council input, so I would like to make a motion. I move that we grant relief on the 3 variances for the Macknis property at 316 Chesterville Road, with the condition that all of the township ordinances be met other than these 3 we're exempting. And also condition on the applicant getting the proper permits, which would be 4 specifics we want to spell out: the zoning permit, the electrical permit, mechanical permit, and then the sign ordinance permit. And I think that would bring you as into compliance and not have a problem with neighbors or anything in our community if you were on the tight and narrow in those things. Your second on that?
Second.
You guys.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
What happens next, sir, is our office will issue a written decision confirming the board's award of their relief this evening. We have 45 days to do that. We don't usually take that long, but we have 45 days, and then you'll get a copy in the mail. And then you'll be able to, you can, in the meantime, they'll apply for the permits, file those applications with the township, and eventually everything will come together and you'll be completely legal there.
So unless anybody has anything else at this time, we'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.